much for being here. I know beating the traffic and meetings and personal priorities is not easy. You are here, so a big round of applause to all of you. I'm privileged that I have approximately 200 megawatts plus power here on the dais with me here. To start a quick introduction, I will start with Syed Bearys sir. He is the founder and CMD of Bearys Group and also the chairman of IGBC Bangalore. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, good morning, friends. I'm still a novice. I'm still in the learning curve of data center, and 2016 we started our first data center, and till date, by the grace of God, we have delivered 5 data center, around 2 million square foot, 170 megawatts of power, and all that to our dear friend Sandeep's company, NTT Global. In addition to that, we are going to build, we have built 1 cable landing station in Chennai, and we are going to build 7 data center, in that 3 for NTT, 1 for Microsoft in Hyderabad, and 2 for Nesta. It's a part, it's a data center wing of Airtel, and our own 1 edge data center, totally about 190 to 200 megawatts. So that way, we are perhaps one of the, largest data center developer in India. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. I would say Sujit next. He's the CTIO at BDx.
Thank you, W.Media. Thank you, Vivek, for having me here. I'm the, the technology and innovation leader for BDx, which is basically a APAC platform, data center platform. We have around 200 megawatts of data center capacity outside of India. We still haven't invested in a data center in India. We're predominantly there in markets like Singapore, Hong Kong. So yes, exciting times. I'm an Indian. Have always spent all my life, except this stint, in India, working for a large number of Indian conglomerates. This is a startup that we looked at 4 years back, and we've done well, starting from 0 to 200 megawatts in approximately 4 markets, and very challenging markets: Indonesia, China, Hong Kong, Singapore, Taiwan. And obviously, one of the big reasons that we are here is that we are looking at now investing in India. The big reason, one obviously, is it's a no-brainer that India is amongst the biggest in terms of data consumption patterns. You look at anywhere, world's biggest, 20 GB of data is the ARPU, which is the highest in the world. The other big piece is, I was talking to Bearys Saab and Darshan. The big piece is that the government has become really good in terms of the enabling policies. So when we look at what is happening in other parts of the world and how the government looks at digital infrastructure versus India, over the last 10 to 15 years, we have seen that that has taken off really well, right? So that's the second big positive, right? And the third piece that we look at is that data centers across the globe are facing a lot of backlash, right? Because we eat a lot of energy, right? So 3% of the world's energy is taken by data centers. So if you look at most of the large countries have banned data centers, right? Large data center hubs. So if you look at Europe, Amsterdam, for example, a big data center hub, no more data center development, right? Singapore, same here. Asia's biggest data center hub, no more data center development. The government is saying, no, you eat a lot of power, you create a lot of carbon. Now, we as BDx has a sustainable goal of going net zero, amongst the first in APAC to declare a net zero goal. We have a goal of going net zero by 2030. Now, why India? The big piece is renewables. When I was speaking to Darshan, Karnataka is the renewable hub, IT hub, everybody knows. India's #1 state in terms of renewable capacity generation. And the other piece is, big piece is how the government has opened up. Darshan was kind enough to say, I said, this is what we need. He said, yeah, we will do it for you. So that is the change that I see. The government is enabling us instead of we trying to run after the government, and that is the big reason that we are investing in India. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sujit, for the context. I will come to Sandeep, Senior Director at NTT.
Hi, Sandeep Dandekar. I have been with NTT for a decade now, and that's how long I have been in the field of data centers. NTT being the leader, we pretty much started actually what the landscape that we see today of data centers in India. And as a leader, we always proactively take steps to lead innovation, to lead newer steps, whether it is sustainability, whether it is transforming the way we construct, build, and operate data centers. Bearys has been an integrated part of us. We don't call him an outside partner, he's an inside partner now. And we have achieved great things together. So the landscape of market has changed from pre-COVID to now, and obviously because the green field was seen, you can see that possibly 3 to 4 years back, there were 5 or 6 prominent players in the data center of India. Today you see 20 plus, easily 25 plus people, players. That's what is a change. We also know recent disruptions like few more biggies in addition to the existing ones coming into this field. So they will also change the game, which will be interesting to see how it unfolds. And overall, I'm sure for the whole domain, all this dynamism, all this pumping of enthusiasm, pumping of funding is going to be eventually good. And it will contribute to raising of business economy for India in a way which will contribute to rising India.
Thank you so much. A short introduction about myself. My name is Vivek. I'm the moderator, privileged guy to be here. I work for a company called Versa Innovation. We are known for 2 of our products, Daily Hunt, which is a mobile-based news aggregation app, and Josh, which is a short video app, a replacement of TikTok, you can say. I am also heading the CIO Club Bangalore chapter, which is a fraternity for the CIOs and IT decision makers in India. With that, we will start with the discussion here. And I would like to, before I start, I would like to correct my projection of the 200 megawatt to now 500 megawatt power here on the stage. Thank you so very much for the insights that you have shared. One thing for the audience also, I'm going to ask a lot of questions here, and I want you to tell me, which question do you think I derived from AI with the help of AI? Okay? There are a couple of questions. I'm going to ask a lot of them. I want to know whether you are able to understand, whether you are able to distinguish the difference between the human questions versus the questions drafted by the AI, okay? So let us see who catches that. Now, with that, couple of data points. Sujit, Syed, Bearys, Sandeep, everybody talked about their world, their organization's goal, their country's landscape on the data center part. I want to put a different perspective on the overall data growth. That is what we are here for, designing and building for growth. Back in 2016, the data consumed globally was 1.75 zettabytes. Who can tell me in the audience how many 10 to the power is that zettabyte in terms of bytes? Anybody? 10 to the power 2, 3, 4, 5? 100? No, but that is perhaps future, but not now. 10 to the power 12, sir, you are very short of that. Yeah, very close. It is 10 to the power 21. Imagine the size. And from 2016 to 2020, it increased to 60. And the projection is that in another 3 years, it will grow further by 3x to 180 zettabytes. So you can understand the volume. Any guesses that how much megabytes per second an individual generates? How many MB of data? Nobody? Per second. Come on, no guesses? 100 is too high for 2023. It's okay, let me break it to you. It is in single digit. 5 is also high. 3, yeah, you are getting closer. I know somebody will guess it. Okay, so just to break it to you, it is 1.73 megabyte per second per person today. And that is going to grow multifold high. The reason, top three reasons. One is, of course, information and communication technologies, ICT as we call it. Second is retail, which is coming big time. And India, we have taken over China as far as the population is concerned. So yeah, we are going to increase that a lot. But can anybody guess what is the third biggest reason behind this massive, enormous data growth? Content, media. Absolutely right. Right. So whether it is the videos, which is the biggest industry now, and that is why my company also jumped into that foray with the short video app. That is the trend now, right? Earlier, I think I saw one study 6 months back that Google said that it was not afraid of any other competition, but of TikTok, because people were searching for solution on TikTok, especially the millennials. Can you imagine how the trend is changing? And now you have the chat GPTs and BARTs of the generative AI of the world, and I'm going to ask this question to our dignitaries here on that. So with that, I will start with my questions. What has changed in last 1 year, I would say, if you have to, because the timeline is pretty huge. What has changed according to you in the data growth and how it has impacted your business? Sujit, and then I will come to Sandeep.
So I think, the size, so when we look at data center, we look at a modular size. So we used to start with a 2 megawatt couple of years back, right? Each power train was a 2 megawatt module. Today, the discussions that I'm having, people are asking, why don't you start with an 8 megawatt module, right? That's the first piece that we are seeing, right? So the hunger for power has increased. That's first. Second, and because we have grown with acquisitions, when we did our first acquisition in Hong Kong, the typical size of, just to give you a perspective, that a bunch of servers in a box, that was eating around 3 kilowatts of power. Today, the one that we are deploying in Singapore is 50 kilowatts of power. And this has happened over 4 years, right? And this is alluding to the question of AI. This is an AI workload, 50 kilowatts of power. So in 4 years, what we have seen is the way I look at this is that should I go and build a data center for 3 kilowatt capacity of boxes, or should it be 15 as the standard? 50 obviously is the max, right? The third that we have seen is that network bandwidth, right? Because data is not a warehouse. A data center is not a warehouse where you put data. It has to go in and out constantly. The consumption of bandwidth is no more in terms of gigabits. So bytes is when you store data, bits is when data is in motion. So no more in gigabits. Customers have started talking in terms of terabits of capacity, each customer. So if I have, let's say, 7 or 10 customers in one data center, we're talking about that particular building, right, is typically looking at, around 100 terabits of incoming and outgoing. That's huge. Now, just to give you a perspective, a terabit is, when I used to be in these mobile companies, I used to work for them, a terabit network is what they used to deploy, right, 10 years back. One company would have across the country, if I look at aggregation, a terabit network, right? And this is around 10 years back. Today I'm looking at one building doing 100 terabits. So that is the kind of things that we're seeing: power, bandwidth, and of course, everybody is talking about sustainability. So these are the 3 big trends.
Awesome. Sandeep, how has it impacted NTT?
Yeah, most of the points you have covered. I'll try to avoid repetition. However, some may still get repeated. So one, as I said, you see instead of 6 to 7 players, 25 players. You see more of self-build from customers. These are few things that have emerged as a substantial change in the last few years. Aside that, COVID by itself was a big trigger. overnight trigger, and it was kind of a double attack. Because while we were battling with our own constraints because of COVID, we had limitations to beat. There was a sudden rise in demand, and that demand at that time was very, very impatient, because companies who had not taken early steps, enough steps to go to cloud, go to off-prem, suddenly realized that they are at a risk of standstill. So they wanted to move immediately. And while they wanted to move immediately, we obviously had our supply chain issues. We also had our own construction issues because of COVID. So that was a mother of innovation. That required us to quickly think about how to do maneuver over such problems. We also are seeing now that there are cost pressures. Obviously, that is a sign of any competitive market. While there is a cost pressure, typically in any business, cost and time play cross lever to each other. When you squeeze time, your cost goes up. This is a peculiar situation where we are forced to do, as a competitive market, what we did in 18 months today in 14, and 14 to 12 and so on, while at the same time we have to reduce cost also. The third lever, while we are trying to do this difficult trade-off, sustainability also is now a very, very high priority. So we also have, as NTT, Net Zero, which is our initiative, declared initiative by 2030. So which means your choice of materials, your methodology of construction, your methodology of operation has to change. So many moving balls we have to handle at the same time. The other thing is, if you see all the data centers so far in India, and the reason is, all these data centers that we have seen so far are in the main cities where real estate is constrained and it is expensive. So you see mostly vertical data centers, whereas if you see in the US, Europe mostly, because the infrastructure has gone deeper, they can afford to go off from the city center where real estate is substantially cheaper, and these are horizontal data centers. So which means right from construction to design to operation, when it is G+7, G+8, it is totally different ballgame compared to G or G+1. So that's one major change. The DC campus is a new thing that is coming up. Earlier we were talking about one hyperscaler, one or two hyperscalers. So every customer wants to have a scalability opportunity in the vicinity, in the same campus. Also, the growth is much faster. And finding the right real estate for any project is not as much, but more difficult than actually building or operating a data center. And I can say that from repeat experience. We have a list of about 52 parameters to satisfy to finally qualify a piece of land for data center, out of which there are 6 to 7 or maybe a little more no-go parameters, which means even one parameter of that is not fulfilled, the whole site can be dropped. So it is a substantial effort and very, very difficult task to find the right property. So that has all led to a DC campus, because if you find one right property, then it makes sense because customers want scalability. It is not easy for you to keep on finding the right locations. So DC campus is something that is now coming up. More and more campuses you will see. The other thing, like Sujit said, high density. Densities of data center, one is from, because the data usage, even the equipment that we are using, IT equipment I'm talking about, are designed to handle a lot more megawatt, lot more data capacity. So that has led to, Bearys will agree with me, higher load capacities. We were building initially in 2015, 2016, we would design a building with 1500 kg per square meter. Now we are talking about 2200, 2300. Even the slab to slab height therefore goes up because you need to have a higher rack to pack more IT equipment. So these are becoming slab to slab, more height, more weight. So the whole structure has completely transformed within 6 to 7 years. You can imagine 1500 to 2300, slab to slab height, let's say 4.8, 5, 5.2. Now we are talking about 6 meters. So that is how it is changing.
I'm sorry, I want to interrupt you here on a lighter note. I'm hearing the complaint from a lot of Bangaloreans here that the property rates have gone high because you guys are acquiring the land like anything. Is it true?
Yeah, to a certain extent it is true. But my friend Sandeep has contradicted himself. He said that when the time is squeezed, rate is, naturally they have to spend more rate, more cost. But then that's not the case with us. They squeeze the time, which used to be 18 months earlier. Now they say everything 12 months, okay, or earlier to that. But the rate has to also reduce, not increase. That is one aspect. But the fact is, today, it is no more a data center. It has all become data center park. Everywhere data center park. Even the government of India, when they made this data center as a industry, they used the word data center park. That is really a paradigm shift. Earlier, 5 years back or 6 years back, people used to talk of 3, 4, 5. 5 is the cap. Today, people are talking of not less than 20, 25 acre, and it goes up to 100 acres. It goes up to 100 acres. So it is a different ballgame altogether, and the scalability, the expansion, and the infra. Because when you have a data center park, the infra, if you can quantify in a manner that, proactively you can quantify, then that becomes very easy. You can turn it around faster, smoother, and easier way. So today, the NTT is the first one to buy 54 acres in Navi Mumbai, about 4 years back, right? 4.5 years back. At that time, they have scaled that. They are working on about 400 megawatts of power. One data center park. Now I'll tell you the power perspective. Mumbai, the entire Mumbai requires around 350 to 360 megawatts of power to light up. The entire Mumbai. And here, one data center park is reaching eventually around 400 megawatts. So it is really a buzzler, it's a power buzzler. That is where the industry leaders, the stalwarts need to put their mind and soul together and bring in the sustainability. Sustainability should not be a talk. It should not be that, no, by 2030, we'll become sustainable. What's sustainable? That is, you don't have an on-site generation of power. Everything is off-site. Somewhere, 300, 400 kilometers away, you have a solar park, and then that power will be wheeled, and you claim that we have become sustainable. That is after the damage is done. So my appeal to the leaders is, you need to work out a system. You need to associate with some international university, Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, or any other, international institute, and put up, say, $100 million. Every big, because 100 million in a data center is not a big deal. Each one contributing 10 million, and give them a task. Give them a task of, say, in 3 to 5 years' time, they must come down and see that the 1.37, what is that, the PUE now, it should become less than 1. How you can achieve it? That is a real responsible data center operator's work. This is what, my suggestion.
Yeah, Sandeep, you have some point about that?
Yeah,
I'll
just
continue,
two
Sujit.
quick ones before Sujit can take over. So both points briefly, Bearys have talked about. One is cost to time ratio, which I talked about. That's why I called it double attack. So expectation of market is to cut down time, yet cut down cost at the same time. And like I said, now at least situation has somewhat stabilized. It has become a little easier, but after COVID, because of the semiconductor issues, the lead times had got suddenly longer. So while market wanted us to do things in a shorter time, 16, 18 weeks of lead time of long lead equipment suddenly became 30, 35, 40 weeks. Then came the Ukraine war. So while the situation was slightly stabilizing after COVID, then the war started, the supply chain disrupted. So all these issues in a dynamic world keep coming to us. The second point that Bearys have talked about very briefly is PUE. Now, PUE 1.4, 3 years back would be considered very good. Now we are talking about 1.2, 1.1, reaching ideally 1, which is a theoretical concept, but we would all like to be as close as 1. So how do you achieve that? By various parameters. Like now we work with IT vendors. They have started producing an equipment which can be dipped into liquid, which is called liquid immersion. So we have done a pilot. So you literally dip the IT asset into liquid where the heat dissipation capacity of liquid is always more than air, as we all know. So that's one. The equipment, IT equipment now can work in higher temperature ambience. So that allows us to increase the temperature of data hall, which means lesser cooling and therefore lesser impact to the environment. So various such levers like hot aisle containment, cold aisle containment, tens of things using AI, ML in operations, eliminating and cutting down efficiencies, wastages, etc. So PUE reaching as close as 1 is not an ornament, is not an accolade now, but is a must actually. And it dovetails into sustainability, as Sujit said. Over to you. Sorry, I took a...
No, that's fine. So, thank you, Bearys, for picking up the topic of sustainability. Now, the first piece is PUE a measure of sustainability? It is not, right? What PUE tells is how energy efficient you are, right? That's the first piece. So, when I look at sustainability, the piece that you look at is how much carbon are you generating, right? That's the first piece. So, if I have a PUE of 1, for example, right, and I have a 40 megawatt data center, right? Let's look at how much carbon I will generate. 40 megawatt into a year is around 8,760. That many megawatt hours of carbon, right? Just humongous, right? So, and you know, if you look at you know, some of the colder regions, like if I want to look at Norwegian regions, or if I want to look at regions in US which have got 8 months of very cold climate, right? There you get to a PUE of 1.17, 1.2, thereabouts. Now, are they sustainable? They are not. They still generate carbon, right? So that's the first piece. Now, the second piece is, how do you want to look at carbon, right? So the likes of Microsoft, Google's, you know, Amazon, they've already said we are net zero. We are now net zero by 2019, 18, whatever is that date. But they're still generating carbon, but they are setting it off. Now, that's a way of looking at things. I don't want to say wrong, right. Everybody has a perspective. The piece that we will have to look at is, does carbon generated by digital, is it offset in some manner, right? So, you know, I think 10 days or 7 days before I was talking to Sandeep, right, in Mumbai. I was with the ASSOCHAM guys and we met up. And Sandeep brought in a point that, why don't we go and tell people to stop using mobile phones? Because that's what's generating, right, the data that generates the data center, right? Why don't you stop using YouTube? Why do you click so many photographs and share it in 10 different apps, right? That's the point that you were talking about. I said, yeah, it's a noble thing, but I have a challenge, you know, explain it to my son, right? So he's a millennial, and he does all kinds of things, and I'm not there on any social media site, right? So I kind of find it bewildering in terms of, what do you do with, why do you want to take a photograph of me having dinner with you and post it somewhere? I can't get it, but for him it is a way of life, right? So there is a part of digital actually reducing carbon. So in the organization, for example, because we have 100% paperless digital office with ERP, with you know, billing, which is absolutely 100% automated, and so on and so forth, 100% digitization, is it reducing carbon footprint? Yes. Is digital transformation the way to reduce carbon footprint? You look at any study, it will say yes. So we will have to, you know, and when I talk to governments, I kind of emphasize on this point. You don't stop people from doing 5G, right, which will increase the speed and lead to a data implosion, right? You're not stopping that. You're saying the data center should not work. How would you have digital without digital infrastructure? That's impossible, right? So what you're essentially doing is, you will have to strike a balance. So we look at energy efficiency as one matrix, which is the PUE thing that Syed Saab was talking about. And the other metric that we look at is, you know, how much, you know, less or how efficient you can become. Now, when I look at efficiency, PUE 1.1, you spoke about, Sandeep, you spoke about liquid cooling. So India, right, is, and this is what we worked with the Singapore government for the green data center norms, and you know, it is a complete sea change from what I see in Europe, right? India is at a time when there are no green data center norms. Imdia is at a time when, while we are, you know, expanding capacity at a pace which is, you know, really, really impressive, but at the same point of time, can we bring in, as an industry, forget about what the government does, as an industry, can we come together and create a policy framework that this is what we will do? That we will look at, you know, new expansions in liquid cooling, whether it is direct to chip, whether it is immersion, right? There are, whether it is rear heat exchangers with closed loop water. So we need to look at what will make us as an industry, whether it is the 20 people, whether it's the 30 people, more efficient. And we have the ability to do that. We don't need to follow the West. We can carve out, we are very rich in renewables, right? We can, and I was, when I was speaking to the IT secretary in Maharashtra, they spoke about enabling captive, right? So if you're a data center, you can have right next to it, you can have a captive, renewable piece. In Karnataka, when I spoke to Darshan about it, he was saying, you please give me an application, I'll make it happen. So we'll see where it takes us. But that is where we need to bring in a policy which says that, boss, you don't need to do offsite, you don't need to go to the grid. Bring about storage. How do you store energy? Because sun is not going to be there in the night, right? How do you do banking, energy banking, right? Those are the enabling things that can help us drive sustainability in the world. We are now driving renewables in the world, right? We are amongst the, in terms of the energy transition, right? The government in every forum is speaking about India leading, right? Leading, and most probably will overtake China. So even in sustainability, I think there is a unique opportunity that the data center industry has, right? To come together and create a policy framework which will make it seem that India is leading.
I have a question on that actually, and perhaps that will be best answered by Syed Beary here. What is stopping us? I mean, you are talking about sustainability, Sandeep is talking about sustainability, all the leaders are talking about sustainability. So what is stopping? There is no framework, there is no policy about it, is okay, but we still can be responsible, right? So what is stopping us achieve that?
Well, honestly, we are all in the high speed, We are all in the 180 kilometer per hour, whereas our threshold point was 80 in India. So that is a real, problem. The speed, everything, everybody wanted yesterday, as if tomorrow is not existing. With that, kind of a greed and kind of a, everywhere so many megawatts, I built so many megawatts, I built so many, million square foot. That should go, from the quantity, it should be qualitative, entrepreneurship skill. That has to bring in. And it has to come within, by the policy, by government directing. Honestly, nothing would happen. As my friend mentioned, we all the leaders should, put their minds together. And we don't have a time. Naturally, you also don't have a time. There are people, the university, there are few universities, they are best in the power, mitigation and power reduction of the power consumption. So give it to them, give them a task, give them a task and the fund, and tell them that by 3 years' time or 5 years' time, so they will come out with not one solution, rather multiple solutions. Then you have a choice. Otherwise, by this speed, with this kind of yesterday business, if you're expecting the team leaders to do it, I don't think so. Okay? So that is, this all should come from the, and then we must not think that it's a great obligation we are doing. No, it is our bonded duty. It is our bonded duty because these universes, we have borrowed it from our grandchildren. It is not given by our grandfathers. So we have a moral duty to ensure that sustainability should become our way of life. Our thinking, our doing, our saying, everything should be same. But today it has all become a marketing jargon. We are 2030, we are going to become sustainable. What's sustainable? I really don't understand. Anyway, so before we close, I think 6 minutes, 19 seconds shows.
Don't worry about the time part.
We have
the
yeah, because I have one pertinent discussion about Bangalore. Okay, so when Bangalore comes, then I will talk.
Yeah. So, but before I go into the Bangalore specific thing, I am going to ask a tough question on behalf of the audience to Sandeep and Sujit both. We are talking about sustainability. You are talking about the time and cost reduction expectation from the market, right? But is the customer really seeing that? We are seeing the cost of the data centers, cost of the operations going high, multifold year on year. So how is that translating, help to your customers when it comes to the cost particularly? Whether it is sustainability or not, I'm not sure that how many of the CIO sitting here or the IT decision maker sitting here, would really be bothered when their CFO gives them a target that last year you spent 100 million and this year your target is 70 million. Now you do the maths, how you are going to do it, whether it is sustainable energy utilization at data center or not, I don't care, but the cost has to come down. So how is that translating as a benefit to your customers?
Right. So this is small question and very, very long answers with many facets, but I will try to keep it short. I don't think cost on a unitized basis is rising. If you factor the inflation percentage, so if you factor in the inflation percentage, the commodity price rise, the exchange rate, if you factor in that, I don't think net the cost really is going up on a unitized basis. And that's exactly what is our challenge. Like I said some time back, while we have to do it faster, we have to do better, we also have to cut cost. So how can it be that I am saying from a seller point of view, a service provider point of view, that I'm required to cut costs, and on the buyer side, customers say, I find the price point going up. It's not real. So if you need to factor in the cost increase triggers, which are beyond everybody's control, and above that, if the cost is going up, that's a real question to ask. If input costs are going up, that's beyond their and our control each.
That is because of the consumption, not because of the unit costing. That is
Absolutely.
what you are saying. So,
And the cost drivers, I'm saying.
What would be your take on that?
So I think the way I look at it is what are the input costs, right? Power is one big input cost, right? And typically the way the commercial contracts are structured, power is paid for as a pass-through, right? So not that I have to take care of the power usage of my customer. They are paying power to the utility, I just give them the bill. Here is your utility bill. So power, input cost, taken care.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The second input cost is, cost of construction, and then you look at how do you amortize it, financial modeling, blah, 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 in terms of, a unit cost that you give out to the customer. That is again something that we see, if doing the right technology with the right modeling, I think you're either at the same level or slightly higher, maybe 4-5% higher, right? That's second piece that you're saying. The third piece that you're saying is automation, right? You have a DC operations. Automation is making it, less manpower intensive, right? You pick up any piece, how are you automating, whether it is PUE management using AI, and stuff like that. So technology is coming in for you to bring down the operation cost. And typically, if I look at over the last 4 years, we look at every year doing 4 to 5% less operation cost on manpower than the previous year. So what does it mean? If I look at any market except markets where the government has said, this city, no more data centers, because then the supply constraint comes in. But in wherever data centers, there is no, clamp for building more data centers, prices have not gone up from a customer perspective. Prices have actually gone down, any market you pick up. So the customer is paying less.
So basically, I can tell to the audience that
you can go ahead.
Your team is quoting higher than,
Correct. That's what I'm saying. So if you leave aside the cost drivers which are beyond our control, power which is passed through, it's becoming more and more competitive.
Yeah.
I want to just add, Sujit and Sandeep, they spoke about the, about what is happening in the industry. I want to give a little application of mind,
Sure.
To make it more efficient. See, what is happening here, there is a land parcel, there's a building parcel, there's a MEP, then there's the operation. Seldom these four elements sit together day one. It is always isolated, and then we work out the design. When the design comes to the MEP, then they say, no, it should have been like that, or whatever the changes. So my suggestion is always, whenever you go for any greenfield project, all stakeholders should sit, take a 3 days holiday in Maldives or some other Singapore or some other place, brainstorm and then work out, see what is the best for our location, for our country, and the infrastructure what is readily available. In that we can really save not only cost and the time. And in data center, time is money.
I'm not going to defend Sandeep and Sujit on that, but I would say, like earlier you only said, that the main issue is that customers as we all expect lesser time, lesser cost, and in that rush, perhaps these plannings also take a back seat. And that is the reason,
I got missed out one interesting thing. Sandeep mentioned about the checklist. Every client got a checklist. The checklist of some 50 to 60 number. Okay, in that checklist, the client expect that every point should be ticked. I said, boss, if it is ticked every point, then it is no more checklist. You must change it as a tick list. If it is a checklist, at least 10-20%, should not be adhered to, because it is impossible. But they said that a 100% checklist, which I always call it as a tick list. So I found it
that's a nice one. Okay, we are short of time. One question, I will come to the audience questions for sure. Please keep your questions ready, and I hope that you are still trying to identify which of my question was generated by the AI. And I'm coming to the AI part now, because that is hot nowadays. How do you see generative AI in your business? Whether it is helping your business, yes, of course, it has increased the potential, more data getting generated, not only consumed, more data getting generated, storage is required and things are required, compute is required. So yes, of course, that is good business for you, but how do you see it in the overall perspective?
That's the way to go, that's the way forward, irrespective of what type of industry, what type of business anyone is in. Even when it comes to our data center operations, more and more, like Sujit said, more and more automation, more and more AI, even ML is going to be deployed. We see a great deal of that already happening. That leads you to more and more accurate, more and more predictive, from responsive to predictive. I mean, from knee-jerk to responsive was one wave. Now responsive to predictive is another wave. So by deployment of AI and ML, you make the systems, you make your all the equipment self-learning all the time. So more and more they work, more and more intelligent they become, because they keep on learning on themselves. That's ML. So no question about it, even in data center operation, whether it is enhancing efficiency, capacity, making operations economical, avoiding wastages, everything is going to get more and more AI driven, less and less human dependence.
You are all right? You are sweating a lot?
Less and less human dependency. That's how we are. Yes,
yeah, I know that they are radiating the energy. Yes, Sandeep, please continue. Please.
No, so over to Sujit, I think.
Sujit, one benefit and one, I'm sorry, I'm putting you on the spot, but one benefit of the ChatGPT kind of generative AIs, and one major concern that you see.
Generative AI, does not increase the data per se, it increases the computational modeling, right? It uses the current data banks, right? So, and inferencing is different from training. So you have a training workload, you have an inferencing workload. Now, the bad part is what I will speak first, is that sometimes I've seen that when you put a problem, you ask this thing, how many questions have been generated by generative AI? So we've stopped applying our minds. We think whatever the AI tells is right. That's the wrong part. Your creativity will be hampered if you start looking at that this is the manna from heaven. And whatever is written out there is the truth. It is not. It is as good as the training model. So you train the AI piece. So please do not let it stop your creativity. That's the first piece. And this will become more and more complex in terms of when I speak to customers in terms of what they're doing. I think a lot of them, in their interest of reducing cost, are using AI models to generate everything. That should be stopped. And we should not let our creativity stop. That's the first piece. The second piece is, what's good about it, it gives you another perspective. Start looking at it as another perspective. You did something, you want to do a check now. So that is where the good and bad part is all about.
Got it, got it. Great. I think we have consumed all the time and data that was given to us. Yes, Sandeep.
Bangalore.
Bangalore, yes. You wanted to, Syed Beary, you wanted to come to the Bangalore specific.
See, I am a Bangalorean, I am a Kannadiga, and naturally, my focus is always onto Bangalore. I feel, even though Mr. Darshan mentioned many things, everything is perfect. However, in data center, we are lagging behind. You must always accept the mistake. Only when we accept the mistake, then we try to rectify the mistake. Okay. So what we are trying to do, Dr. Ramana Reddy, he is a principal secretary for ITBT and Industry and Commerce. We have been talking to them. We said that why don't Government of Karnataka start with a data center, a DC park, maybe 100 and odd acres of land, and with the power and with the network connectivity. That is 100% assured. I'm 100% sure because, you see, Bangalore is losing out in a real sense. In 2021, 560 megawatts was the total capacity of data center pan-India. In that, 45% was Mumbai. When I say Mumbai, primarily it is Navi Mumbai. And we were around 12%. Karnataka was in 12%. Bangalore, primarily. And Chennai was also 12%. Now, 2024 projection is going to be 1,400 megawatts. In that, Mumbai, again Navi Mumbai, from 45 it's going to 52 plus, 50% plus. And Chennai from 12 to 16%. However, Bangalore is not catching up. So for that reason, we told, we requested our ministry, we said that unless and until you start, government start, and that should become the first initiative from any state. So I said Karnataka's first, India's best data center. The land, power, and complete network, and ease of sanction and approvals and etc. Because more often the single window becomes one more window. Whenever government says single window, suppose there are about 12 windows, we say that, okay, now no more 12, it's only one window. But the one window becomes the 13th window. So the single window is not a real solution. The solution is real aptitude, real attitude, and commitment to the cause. And that they are very, very proactive. We are working on that. I'm sure sooner than later, some good news should come in the paper about the data center park sponsored by Government of Karnataka. Thank you.
Sandeep, you have a point?
Yeah, so while talking about Bangalore in specific, I'll take only 1 minute. I'm very glad to specifically say that we remain committed to Bangalore. We have been in Bangalore possibly before any data center player came. Yesterday was incidentally, today we are speaking, and yesterday was our cornerstone laying ceremony of 100 megawatt data center park.
A big round of applause, guys. So the party is on Sandeep now.
Absolutely. So it's a campus, and your wish, my command, sir. So we are very much committed to Bangalore, and that's it. So I wanted to say that.
Nice, nice. Congratulations on that is near Devanahalli, right? Is it, if I'm not wrong? Yeah. So congratulations for that. We are looking forward. You are saying that around 14 months of time. Just one more question out of curiosity. Right now you are saying 14 months. How was this time, say a couple of years back, say 2 years, 3 years back? Because you said that time reduction is also a priority.
Yes. I mean, as an overall market, the patience and allowance of a market, if I may use that word or phrase, would have allowed us 24 months about 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Today we are forced to do it in 12 to 14 months, including substation and all that. So we'll have our own substation in the park. That itself will take a lot of time. Including all that, we have to do it in 12 to 14 months.
Nice, nice. Great. We will open it to the audience. May I request somebody to, yep, okay. Anand Mangalam from...
Yeah, hi, my name is Anand. I'm from Arja Steel, Group CIO. Just two quick questions. First, that about the sustainability. I would like to know, is there a chart which indicates that data centers is producing so much pollution or carbon footprints where they become the priority? Because for a layman, an STP unit in an apartment consumes more power than a data center with heavy duty motors and converters and filters. So why are we focusing so much on data center carbon footprint vis-a-vis there are so many other places where the carbon footprint, power generation is so high? Second question is to Mr. Beary. is what exactly is the economic value from a data center coming other than the development? Because most of the employment is going to be in another state, power is going to be produced here, billing is going to be the place it's consumed, not where it is generated, right? The GST billing from the data center is going to the states where it's going to consume. So may I know what is your perspective to add economic value from setting up a data center in Bangalore?
Yeah, I will tell you first, Indian Green Building Council got a separate rating system for the data center. There's a separate rating system is there. So it is well, thought of and, it is all beautifully done. And, both the data center, what we built for NTT got the platinum rating certification. The Bangalore as well as Mumbai one. Now we are trying to work on Chennai. So when it comes to the cost factor, you see data center directly on the operation side, it is not a great deal of employment generation is not happening. But but the employment in the indirect way is stupendous. For example, for the data center, you have a construction labors are there. Then you have a DG manufacturer, you have a HVAC manufacturer, you have a, hundreds of, industry wala. It's all, there are great deal of employment opportunities there. Now coming to the cost, see, data center is all about, it is a capital intensive and power intensive. The kind of generation for the state exchequer is really, really stupendous. By virtue of first, each data center per megawatts, the cost what they're investing is, you cannot imagine. I don't want to, mention the, million or a crore. It is really, really big figure. And then every investment, there's 18% GST, right? And then for the power, there is a deposit. There's a security deposit. Then every month, crores of unit they are utilizing. On that, there is a payment. There is a cess. So, and then every data center operator, eventually, they are leasing it out to the third party. So when they lease out, again, there is a GST. So that way, one-time, revenue return for the government and the annual return is amazing. For example, if you if you convert 100 acres land into data center park, vis-a-vis any other park, whether IT, BT, or housing, or commercial, or retail, no match when it comes to the commercial realization.
Just to give you a perspective from what Syed Bearys said, 18.3% of the total operating cost is what the state exchequer gets. 18.3% straight away. So that's the economic value. Carbon footprint, I think, all published, right? You have country-wise, and this is all reported as a country commitment in terms of COP26 made it mandatory. So as the national commitment, NCD that we do, as every country does, right? So data center contributes around 3% globally, on a global scale, right? In terms of the power consumption. That is translates to around 5.6% in terms of carbon created. So that is the carbon piece. But you also have, what you don't look at is when you have digital, because you're only looking at the infrastructure guzzling power, right? But you're also not looking at what the digital pieces that run inside it, right? How much carbon do they save? That is not calculated. That is not somebody who's, nobody has put their minds to that. Setting off is definitely not happening, right? But obviously, organizations publish their digitization footprint in terms of, okay, we are digitizing to reduce carbon.
Okay, guys, I have one announcement here. Sujit has to run and catch the flight, so he wanted to leave early, but thanks, Sujit, that you stayed throughout. Is it okay if we can just let him go and we will take the audience question?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we're done. Yeah.
Just one more question from my side, and especially on the, most of the questions, my question has been already
just
answered.
Before that, this is the last question now we are taking.
Sure.
But we are available in case you have any other question. We can.
But on the ESG, I'm sure the data center companies are all considering ESG. Question to Sujit and to Sandeep: is ESG undermining your company's competitiveness into the market? And how do you build an ESG framework for the future-proofed for tomorrow's economic, competitiveness? Yeah. Considering ESG in your designs.
So the quick answer to this is that ESG is not about carbon footprint, right? The E piece, apart from carbon, has got 20 other pieces in terms of, what are the waste generation pieces that you do. Water, again, another big piece. How do you do? 1 megawatt of, if you're using a cooling system, 1 megawatt needs around 26 million liters of water every year, right? So, you'll have to look at that piece. So the E piece is there, but there is also the social piece in terms of the engagement with the community, and the third piece is governance, which is around how you go about it. So I think the ESG framework is pretty much standard whether you are in this industry or that industry, right? All that you have to look at is, are you doing it, to write something in your annual report, or are you really serious about it? Like Syed Saab was talking about, what is the legacy that we're leaving for our children, right? That is the most important piece that I want to talk about. I don't want to snatch the planet away from my child and use it myself. That's what guides my ESG principles.
Thank you. Guys, to conclude it, 2-3 things. One, we are moving a lot on the data growth and the power consumption subsequently. Be responsible when you are generating the data or when you are consuming. Ultimately, it comes to us, right? We can't blame the service providers. We can't blame the DC creators. It is us, ultimately. Be responsible. Thank you very much, Sandeep. Thank you very much, Syed sir. Thank you very much, Sujit.
That was a great session. Ladies and gentlemen, we put a huge round of applause for this wonderful session. And now I would like to request Mr. Khare to select the best questions, as we have a giveaways to the best question. I would like to request Mr. Khare to select the best questions, as we have the giveaways for